We'll look briefly then at the different core components of language. We begin with phonology, which is the study of the sounds of a language. Why do we need to understand phonology? What use is it? Conventional spelling, the conventional spelling system, does not really represent the way in which we speak. We need more tools. The relationship between spelling and pronunciation is simply not systematic enough. And there are more speech sounds than there are individual letters to represent them. Let's look at sounds and letters. How many phonemes are there in the following? Now a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. So when you say these words, sp, at, p, a, st, how many phonemes are there? How many smallest units of sound? And in this case, there are the same number of letters and the same number of sounds. 4 letters, 4 sounds. So it corresponds. But how about in the following? Series, speakers, phone, laugh. Let's look at the word phone. There are 5 letters. This consists of phone. There's no E sound at the end. It's phone. How about laugh? L-A-F. So as you can see, there are a fewer number of sounds compared to letters. How about in speakers? Sp, I, k, r, s. So there are not the same number of letters as sounds. Consider the underlined sections of the following words: cough, tough, cough, though and tough, and see, ceiling, juicy, sexy. And you can see then that in the underlined parts, the sound combination C is realized in loads of different letter combinations. Phonology and phonetics. For communication to take place between two persons, the utterance has to pass from the speaker to the listener, and then the listener has to be able to decode that which has been said in order to produce in the mind of the listener that which the speaker has said. When we study the speech sounds that are being made in your mouth, then we are looking at phonetics. And phonetics is about how sounds are produced in your mouth and how they are recognized by the listener. And the power source of our speech sound is the flow of air which comes out from our lungs, and then we manipulate how this air comes out. We manipulate it using our mouth, our lips and tongue. Now phonology is associated with phonetics in the sense that phonetics is the mechanics of things in your mouth. Meanwhile, the study of phonology is where you study a specific language and you look at the sounds in the context of a specific language. And phonology is concerned with which sounds a language uses and how a language arranges the usage of these sounds. In English, there are 44 phonemes, and a phoneme is the smallest distinguishable unit of sound in a particular language. Using these 44 phonemes in different kinds of combinations means that you could potentially produce all the sounds, words and sentences in any English dictionary. The International Phonetic Alphabet consists of many different kinds of symbols, and these symbols are used to describe all the sounds that can be made in our mouths for all the languages in the world, at least the ones which have been studied, of course. For English, we need 44 phonemes, and here are the 44 phonemes. And when you look in an English dictionary, then you might find a phonetic description of that particular word that you're looking at. And these 44 phonemes represent all the sounds that can be made, and in writing we have 26 words in the alphabet. How and where are phonemes produced in your mouth? These are the different parts of the mouth which we use in order to make sounds. We use our tongue, lips, teeth, nose, vocal cords, and airflow. And different combinations of these allow us to say different things. Consider, for example, when you say b, what do you use then? B. You're using airflow, you're using your lips, but you're not using your tongue or your teeth. What about your vocal cords? Are you using those? Your vocal cords are, if you put your fingers on your throat just below what is called your Adam's apple, then when you say b, the vocal cords vibrate. How about the following sounds? How do they differ in relation to where and how they are made? How about t, f, and g? They're made in different places in the mouth. T is your tongue touching the space just behind your teeth in an area known as the alveolar ridge. And f, this is a labiodental. What that means is it's the top of your teeth connecting with the bottom lip to make that sound. And g, do you need your lips when you make g? No, g is made at the back of your mouth. In all of these cases, the airflow wants to go out, and in some way you constrain it or you stop it. In the next column you have t and d and s and z, p and b. All of these the combinations t and d, they're made in the same place. S and z are made in the same place. P and b are made in the same place. The difference is that one is voiced and the other one is voiceless. That is, in d, z, and b, they are voiced, which means that your vocal cords vibrate, whereas they do not with the other ones. And how about m and b? How do they differ? M, b. Well, in the case of m, the airflow comes out of your nose and not out of your mouth. All languages are rule governed. This means that in each language certain phoneme combinations are allowed and certain phone combinations are not allowed. How about this list here? Which of these phoneme combinations are more likely to occur in English and which are not? And I reckon that the ones that are not are the z, mz, the zrmz, and the NGU and the TJS. They do not look very English, at least as I look at them just now. So the fact that English is rule governed means that certain phonemic combinations are allowed and certain combinations are not allowed. So why is phonology useful? What can be observed in a classroom using phonological tools? For example, how would you explain to a group of 8-year-old children to indicate plurality in English? If you wanted to say 1 dog, 2 dogs, 1 cat, 2 cats. Now most people would say, oh, in order to make the plural, you add an S. How true is that? Why don't you say these words to yourself? Cat, cats, dog, dogs, house, houses. How do you make the plural? And of course, in written form, fine, you have an added S. But in spoken form, it's not that at all. So in fact, you'd be telling a bit of an untruth by saying you add an S, because it's to make the plural you add an S or a Z or a IS. Similarly, look at the next one. Explain to a group of 10-year-old children how you use the past tense. So if you said, how do you talk about this as if it was yesterday? How do you make the past tense for play, pick, and create? Well, in fact, it's played, picked, created, id. So it seems that you can use different forms. It's not just add ed, it's add id, d, t, id. For those people who are not on the teacher training program but are studying another course, for example Language, Society and Power, you might be concerned to know what can be observed in society using phonological tools. Why should I understand or have an understanding of phonology? Well, for example, there are differences between Standard English and Black English Vernacular, BEV. This is the language spoken by certain Afro-American groups in the United States. The linguistic system of Black English Vernacular and Standard English is basically identical, except for a few syntactical, morphological and phonological rules which produce surface differences. Let's have a look at some of these. Here are some phonological differences between Black English and Standard English. So, for example, the sound I is used as tra, tra. And so in English, in Standard English, you'd say right and time, but in Black English Vernacular, it's time and right. Another example is in Black English Vernacular, there's no th sound. Instead, it's realized as a f or a d. For example, they, them, think are pronounced as they, them, tink. I don't think so. Three and throat are pronounced as I'm free and throat. And nothing, brother is brother, nothing. How has Black English come about to be so different compared to Standard English? What are the causes behind the development of Black English? Something for you to keep in mind is wherever there are social differences, there are linguistic differences. Linguistic differences come about because of social differences. And Black English dates back to about the 1700s and the obnoxious slave trade. Slaves learned a form of simplified English upon reaching the United States, a form of Creole, because they were brutally transported across the Atlantic and often were placed in ship quarters which were composed of different tribal groups so that they couldn't communicate with each other. Their English developed from a form of Pidgin, which is not the native language, and this Pidgin has become creolized, adapted as a native language. Black people were denied access to education. They were expected to talk like slaves, and it was because of their social segregation that their language developed similarly but nevertheless differently, and you can see that even today in Black English vernacular usage.